This is Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Ron Rohde, Kentucky Afield's first host back in 1953. Now, I'm proud to present Charlie Baglin.
It's tough to be the newbie, the new kid in class, the new host of a TV show, especially when the last host left very big shoes to fill. Today, we go inside outdoors, actually inside Kentucky Afield TV, with new host Chad Miles. Hey, Chad grew up watching the show too, so we'll talk with the host about what's new and what will never change. Next on Kentucky Afield Radio. For Mother's Day, how many moms would like to go fishing? What if I said, for Mother's Day, family time, real conversations?
Perfect.
That's more like it. And that's what happens when you fish. You catch up on life. Kentucky Fish and Wildlife says learn more about lakes near your family that are stocked and ready to hook memories this Mother's Day at fw.ky.gov. Who's ready for a boatload of laughs? Give it up for Funny Sunny!
Thanks. I found it. A use for a life jacket. A pillow! Hey, I'm not going to wear a life jacket. I know how to swim. How can it hurt you? It's just water.
It's just hysterical.
Funny Sunny, everyone. She'll be here all week. Maybe. Kentucky conservation officers remind you,
your life jacket's got your back.
Welcome to Kentucky Afield Radio. My name is Charlie Baglin, and let me ask you, are you a TV buff? The old shows? Let's go back to Green Hornet, about Arthur Godfrey, George Burns, and Gracie Allen. The Honeymooners was a favorite of mine. I like Groucho Marx. These date back to the 60s and back to the 50s. Television in Kentucky dates back to 1948. Wave TV in Louisville was the very first station in our state. And before coming to Kentucky Afield, I worked for Wave TV. And I commented to a friend of mine there, who had been there for some years, I said, this building is so big. I said, why is it that this station is so huge? He said the owners at the time said, if this TV thing doesn't work out, they can put light industry in here. Well, that TV thing worked out. And one of the earliest shows that station broadcast was a little something called Kentucky Afield. It was a live show. It was done on Saturday mornings, and it featured Ron Rohde. And it was all about hunting and fishing here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Maybe you were expecting Hope Carlton, but no, Ron Rohde was the premier, the pioneer of outdoor television in Kentucky, if not the nation. He created both Kentucky Afield Television and, before that, Kentucky Afield Radio. He gave the shows their name. Ron is still very much a friend of the show. He follows us on Facebook, and you hear his voice on the open of this show. Over the years, you have heard us say that Kentucky Afield Television is the longest-running outdoor show in America, and it is. We came on in 1953, and we have not missed a beat. We are among the very first. Meet the Press came on in 1947. The Today Show, still on the air today, began in 1952. Kentucky Afield in 53. Kentucky Afield, and forgive me if I brag, does hold a special place in television history, but also in the hearts of Kentuckians. Generations have grown up with this show, myself included. Over the past 60 or so years, it's only gotten better. In 1957, Hope Carlton took over. It was followed then by host Jeremy Dreyer in 1980. And it was Jeremy who actually moved the show to KET, took it out of the studio, and made a magazine-type show in the outdoors. This was in 1985. There were a few other hosts along the way. Tim Michaels in 1988, Dave Shuffett in 1989. He hired me. After Dave left in 95, I hosted the show. Byron Crawford was also a guest host. Then Tim Farmer from 1996 to 2015. Now it's time for our seventh host. 7 since 1953. His name is Chad Miles. And Chad, welcome
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So first question is, do you miss your freedom yet?
That's a good question. It's been a really fun ride so far, and I look forward to every day.
We are recording this show because you're a hard man to catch. I overheard you having a telephone conversation. You were telling somebody that you had to go turkey hunting early in the morning, and then you were going a local fishing shoot, and you had to go to Cumberland for something, and then Friday you had the grand opening of Hatchery Creek, and it seems like the list went on and on.
It has been a very wild ride, I can tell you. So far, it seems like every day you have at least one thing booked, and then you're trying to squeeze the few things that have to happen in the paperwork, and it's been very busy. Those are the things I'm really enjoying about this. This is something you'll find interesting. Everyone knows that I really enjoy fishing, and I love archery, but my wife and I chart different days away from home. Charlie, can you believe that in 2016, in the month of April, I spent less days on the water than I did in 2015 in the month of April. That seems hard to believe, as much as I'm on the lake filming shows. But we had a week-long vacation and a couple of weekend tournaments. So I actually fished less this year than last year, which is hard to believe.
So you're a fisherman.
Yeah,
in grand fashion.
I really enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy the relaxation part. I don't really tournament fish a ton. I do one or two small circuits with some friends of mine, but I just really enjoy it. And my kids enjoy it, so I try to get on the lake as much as we can.
And you're a big water fisherman, let's call it that. You like the big lakes. More apt to see you, say, on Dale Hollow or Cumberland than maybe a small river or creek.
Yeah, and I'd say that that's where I've spent a lot of time, although I was raised on the Salt River and Floyd's Fork. So I love the wading, I love the canoeing and kayaking, especially how nice the kayaks have gotten nowadays. I really enjoy that part, but, there's something about, maybe I'm a little bit of a hoarder. You can take every piece of tackle you have and everything your kids are going to need, especially when you have kids, and pile them into a boat and you get out there and you're there for the day. You've got your lunch, you've got your, and in a 20-something foot boat, it's easy to do that. It's a little harder in a kayak.
You can put a dog in there.
Yeah, you can put a dog, you can put whatever you want. In a kayak, when you're dealing with that, it's a lot of fun, but it's a little harder to put 4-year-olds and 8-year-old kids out there.
So your schedule is filled, to say the least. And that's great right now. It's sort of the honeymoon thing. But the things you were doing for fun, you now have to do.
Yeah,
you have to go fishing.
Yeah.
You have to go turkey hunting. Of course, I'm omitting the part where you have to get a turkey, that you have to catch a fish.
Yeah, exactly.
But you at least have to go and show where you're going and the joy of it.
And that's one of the things that, as I talk to a lot of people that are really close to me, that's one thing that you hear over and over and over is, don't let your passion turn into a job. And, it is a job. There's no two ways about it. When I go out, I'm not always fishing the exact place I would be going, and I'm not always hiking the exact place that I may be going. But the fact is, I still enjoy every day. It's only 2 months in now, but I still enjoy every bit of it. I enjoy going out and seeing new bodies of water, and I enjoy hiking new trails and kayaking new waterways. So at this stage, I'm still really enjoying it, and I haven't had a day where I really felt like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I have to go do this today.
Are you going to be like the postman that takes a walk on his day off?
Possibly.
You'll go on a vacation and go fishing.
I will go fishing on my day off, I'm sure. Yeah, because, my kids, they're extremely passionate about it. They love it. So this past Sunday, I took my kids bluegill fishing in a local pond because they really wanted to be getting out there and doing that. And I've been pretty busy out on the boats, ripping and running. And so, I went fishing this past Sunday with my kids.
You are 41 years old.
That's right, yeah.
A year from now, you'll be 51 at this pace.
It feels like it's flying by. It seems like just yesterday I started at the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and it'll soon be 9 years. Hard to believe. 9 years have flown by so fast.
It does fly by. You talk about careers slipping by. Tim Farmer, your predecessor, came in here, blew in here, did a quick 20 years out the door.
Yeah.
Now you can't do that.
Yeah.
You have to stay put for a while. Now, he was in and out of here and gone in 20 years.
Yeah.
You at least have to make a commitment to stay for the rest of your life.
20 years may do it.
There's sort of a habit. Hope Carlton was here 23 years. I told Farmer, I said, hang in here 3 more years. Yeah, be the longest serving, longest tenured. And he had other things on the agenda, so now it's your turn.
Yeah.
Got to beat Hope. That's the name of the game.
23 years. That's a heck of a career, huh?
It is.
23 years.
Do you hear that out in the hall? Can you hear that? There's nothing there. I'll tell you what that is.
No.
The Kentucky Afield crew is outside letting the air out of your tires in the parking lot.
They're wanting me to slow down?
So that you will stay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you got that?
That's funny.
We are talking to our new host of Kentucky Afield Television, Chad Miles. More after the break. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. Listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. My name is Charlie Baglin. I'm in the studio with the new host of Kentucky Afield TV, the new star of the show, Chad Miles. You can catch the show on KET every Saturday night at 8:30, 7:30 Central. Sunday afternoons again at 4:30 and 3:30 Central Time. Here on this radio show, we can relax a little bit, talk about some things out of context, behind the scenes. Helps us get to know you maybe a little better. You know, there's a difference between live television and the recorded segments we see from the field. You have already hosted the live Wild Turkey call-in show. How do you feel? Which one do you prefer?
Well, I think it's a great change of pace. I really enjoy interacting with the resource, but to get those professionals in and hear directly from a large number of people that call in during a call-in show, I really enjoy that as well. You get to hear some of the really good questions, you get to hear some of the good concerns and the bad concerns, and you get to hear some of the crazy questions too, let's face it. You get some really fun questions that come in when doing a live call-in show. So I enjoy that. It's a good change of pace after you've been out on every corner of the state fishing or hunting, and to go into a studio audience and hear some of the questions and concerns from the outdoors men and women throughout the state.
Most people, when they take on a statewide television show, have some TV experience. Mm-hmm. You kind of walked into this fresh. Mm-hmm. It's not that you're a stranger to the outdoors by any stretch of the imagination. But
I mean, I did the Kentucky Afield show a time or two, and I'm not a stranger to the outdoors, but new to TV, that's for sure.
I saw on Facebook where a couple of people said when Farmer was leaving, you were their first thought.
I've had some people that have made that comment, which is interesting because they were thinking of me prior than me thinking of me, because I really didn't think about it, trying to be Farmer's successor. When I first found out that Farmer was leaving, it took a little while for me to consider the position because TV is so new for me. It's not something I've done. I've got my degree in business and marketing and management, and that's kind of what I had done for quite some time. Really didn't have any plans for TV.
What drew you to this?
People that know me and see me away from my job, they would say, man, he really is passionate about getting out and experiencing the outdoors with new people. Like this weekend, I had 2 little girls and a third girl from my daughter's school all join us. I guess it's a little bit of experiencing and teaching the outdoors. And I really kind of thought, man, this is, you're able to take this to a whole new stage. If you're out teaching, maybe fishing techniques or archery techniques, if you're out doing that on the TV show, every day I'm learning something new so that I can in turn teach that to the next generation. So I think I saw that as a great opportunity. The more time I really kind of thought about it, and then during the interview process here for this job, they put you in front of a camera. So you start filling out exactly how am I going to handle this? Am I going to be any good at it? And I guess some of that's still yet to be determined.
The best way, and I've been in this business better than 30 years, and it was told me long ago, the best way to improve on the air is to improve off the air. Just be a nice person, be genuinely interested, listen to what people say, kind of anticipate what you need to ask to draw out a question. Just be a nice fella. And that's what you are in any given situation anywhere. The camera doesn't have to be on. And so that's what I've noticed about you. You can anticipate what they're going to say, and you're already thinking about your next question.
That's interesting you say that. I've never heard that before. I try to live that every day. I try to be enthusiastic, about, let's face it, though, when you're sitting there and you've heard the 50th turkey story, they're all a little different, and they're brand new to that individual. So I am interested. Now, you can't say that at some point in time you haven't heard, you feel like you've heard them all. There's always something new. You're always going to hear something a little different from that next person that comes up and tells you about their experience in the outdoors. That's the easiest part for me, is carrying away from the camera. I truly am a pretty genuine person, and I love the outdoors, and I love experiencing it with others. So
we have all grown up watching TV, listening to the radio. Is there a newscaster out there or a television show host that you have liked over the years, tried to emulate, or think that, I wish I could be a little bit more like him or her?
Obviously, Johnny Carson was really, really funny, and I enjoyed the Tonight Show. I enjoyed Jay Leno. Yeah. I can't say that I've ever watched one and said, hey, I'm going to try to emulate a particular style.
You pick up little things here and there.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that I am picking up little things here and there, and but I'd say that's probably the two that I did spend some time watching. The Tonight Show, both Johnny Carson and Jay Leno. I think people will find out once they get to know me a little more and I get more comfortable on camera. I'm a pretty lighthearted guy, and we'll see as I get more comfortable. I hope that side really comes out.
One thing for sure, you weren't hired to be Jay Leno or Fallon or David Letterman. Yeah. You weren't hired to be Hope Carlton or Tim Farmer. Mm-hmm. You were hired to be you. Mm-hmm. And they liked what they saw, and they know that you could bring the message of Kentucky's wildlife, hunting, fishing, boating, outdoor recreation to the masses. Mm-hmm. So that's your job, and I really wouldn't worry about, am I measuring up? You wouldn't have the job if you didn't.
Mm-hmm. My wife made a mention the other day that she was watching the show. I guess it was the third or fourth episode that, I'm starting to see you're smiling a little more, you're cutting up a little more. I think that you're getting a little more used to this. And it does take a little bit of getting used to. When you're doing something you do every single day or you like to do every day, it's totally different doing it in front of a camera and changing the angles in which you're casting or standing and interviewing someone, changing the way that you're asking a question. You may be asking a question that you already know the answer to. It's a little different than your normal everyday, even though they go, just be yourself. You have to learn how to be yourself, but yet get the information that the viewers want. I feel like I'm picking that up.
I was going to ask in this interview, and I asked one of the producers, Nathan Sangster, I was watching a DVD of the turkey show, mm-hmm. and I leaned over and I whispered to Nathan, and I said, how did Chad feel about having to wear makeup on the set at KET? He said, they don't do that anymore.
I went in fully expecting it, I have to say, because I thought, this is going to be it. First time ever I'm going to have makeup on. But I got in, and the show was a couple minutes from starting, and they were doing a sound check, and we were getting ready to move forward, and the makeup never came. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, you lucked out.
Looks like we're going to get away from this.
Said they're using different types of lights now. They're a little softer.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, that's what Nathan said. So you got lucky. But even if they go back to that, you have to remember to wash the makeup off before you go out into the public, maybe out to dinner.
Yeah, that would be something because most people would be looking at me going, who is this character over there wearing the blush and powder?
You have to develop a catchphrase. Right now you're using the tried and true, see you in the woods and on the water.
That's right, yeah.
You think you'll keep that up, or?
For a little bit. I think that I don't want to come in and make a ton of changes to a TV show that's been so wildly successful. So initially we talked about continuing on with that. But, at some point in time, I'm sure there will be something that will come up that we will make some slight adjustments to that.
Bloopers. They're going to come up generally around Christmas. Mm-hmm. There'll be some things. We'll take a look back at the year in review, mm-hmm. and that's when they pull out all this old tape of you in your early days. The goal is to keep that to a minimum number. Do yourself that favor.
I hope to be able to keep that to a minimum number, but I'm sure there will be plenty.
Was it hard to leave the old job? That's one thing about taking a new job, especially when you're at the same place. Mm-hmm. You have to leave the old job behind. Tell me about what you did do prior.
Well, so when I came on board with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, I was put in a position to revitalize our Kentucky Fish and Wildlife Foundation. And for those who don't know, our Kentucky Fish and Wildlife Foundation has 3 conservation camps that we do the capital construction on. And then we also do the exhibit construction for the Salado Wildlife Education Center.
Now, those 3 camps, people will know those. Just Camp Curry on Kentucky Lake.
Camp Wallace on Lake Cumberland. Camp Robert Webb on Grayson Lake. That's right. We raise somewhere close to $600,000 a year, sometimes more. We put that into the capital construction projects there on those properties.
And you have done some really fun things over the years that I've had you on the show before, Chad, in case anybody has heard your name. It was with the Fish and Wildlife Foundation. And we were talking about things like Run the Gauntlet, the incredible backyard makeover, the bourbon samplers at the Salado Wildlife Center.
You know, you mentioned Run the Gauntlet. That was something that we were kind of looking for a way to push and promote Otter Creek right after the Department of Fish and Wildlife had purchased Otter Creek. And at this point in time, you know, this seems like it's such a popular thing now, these mud runs, obstacle-style runs. That was actually the very first one ever in the state of Kentucky, was Run the Gauntlet at Otter Creek. I'm very lucky that the person that came in to take over the Fish and Wildlife Foundation happened to have been an assistant for 3 years. She left and advanced her career, and the foundation was lucky to get her back. She knows exactly what we're doing. She understands the mission very well.
She's an outdoors woman from the word go. Loves to hunt, loves to fish, great archer. One thing I thought was interesting, back in the winter time, Farmer had announced his resignation. They were accepting applicants for the job. She was one of them.
She was, yes.
But had she gotten the job, Chad has ought to just point out, she's already gotten her turkey this year. And she's up on you.
She is. Rachel went out and was able to kill a turkey, and we have not finalized that deal yet, but the season's not over. We're going to make that happen.
Stay tuned for that one. The heat is on. The new fresh face of the Kentucky Afield TV show, Chad Miles, is my special guest this hour. We have our fishing report standing by, then back with more. My name is Charlie Baglin. You are listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. Baglin back on Kentucky Afield Radio. If you would like to hear this show again, or share it on your Facebook page, or email a friend the link, it's very easily done. Just go to our Facebook page, search Kentucky Afield Radio, and you will find us there. You can also find us as a link on YouTube, and also go to iTunes. We are a weekly podcast, easy as that. Back with more of the new host of Kentucky Afield TV, Chad Miles, after our fishing report.
This is Jeff Crosby with the Central Fisheries District Fishing Report. Water temperatures in the area are remaining in the upper 60s and lower 70s. Still receiving very good reports of crappie being caught at our area lakes, such as Elmer Davis, Harrington, and especially Taylorsville Lake. Crappie are shallow still from the spawn, being caught on crappie jigs, as well as live minnows when fished around brush or treetops in 6 to 10 feet of water. Additionally, largemouth bass are being caught at our area lakes. Many of these bass, especially at Taylorsville and Harrington Lakes, are feeding on spawning shad along rocky banks. Bluegill and shellcracker are starting to be caught at many of our small state-owned lakes, such as Beaver, Bolts, Elmer Davis, McNeely, or Corinth Lakes. So good luck, and hope to see you on the water.
This is Rob Roll with the Northwestern Fishery District. 2 main reservoirs, Rough River Lake and Nolan River Lake. Temperatures are running in the low to mid-70s. At both Rough and Nolan, bass have been fairly active, mostly on the main lake points as well as some of the secondary points. And they're holding around 10 feet deep. Anglers have been picking up a few on jig and crawl combos, as well as some various other lizard and other soft plastic baits. Also, don't forget our Finns Lakes, Wayman Morris Park, Panther Creek Park, and Yellow Creek Park in Davis County, as well as Bevel Park in Litchfield and Madisonville City Park in Madisonville. They've all been stocked with channel catfish. Anglers have really been doing well. So it's a nice short fishing trip and close to home. Please remember, be safe on the water and always wear your life jackets.
At Kentucky and Barkley Lakes, water temperature's kind of been like a yo-yo, and a lot of the fish, or some of the fish, have moved off the banks and into a little bit deeper water, but as the water warms, they should move back up for some spawning activity. Now, crappie, they're pretty much out of the shallows and they'll probably move back out deep, and so maybe trolling some crankbaits or spider rigging off the deeper ledges over brush might be more favorable. While the bluegill red ear are kind of up shallow right now, look for those mustard flowers, maybe some gravelly shoreline. If you're not catching any big ones, then move out just a little bit deeper. In the tailwaters, fishing is always good right now when there's good flow like we've had. And so striped bass, catfish, white bass is good in the tailwaters. Striped bass using a 4-inch sassy shad or catch you some live skipjack herring. Well, this is Paul Rice, and I hope you find a good day to go fishing.
Did you grab the mayonnaise?
We've got to meet Bob and Cindy at the little store to buy some lunch stuff. Where's John?
He said he left something in his room. He's coming. Did you grab the mayonnaise?
What do you think? Ham, chips? I put that mustard we like in the cooler.
Did you grab the mayonnaise? Oh, here he comes.
Good. He grabbed his life jacket. I should have remembered that.
Did you grab the mayonnaise?
Cupcakes. I want those yellow cupcakes.
Tell your phone.
Boaters are busy, on and off the water. That's why Kentucky conservation officers remind you, your life jacket's got your back.
You know our patch, but there are some things about the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife you may have never dreamed. Like 150,000 acres of wilderness we own for public enjoyment, leading the way in land conservation. From the majestic elk to the short-tailed shrew, healthy habitat helps them all. Kentucky Fish and Wildlife, your partner in the great outdoors. And you thought we were just fishing and hunting. Hunt more at fw.ky.gov.
Baglin back on Kentucky Afield Radio into our second half hour. We are spending some time off the water, out of the woods, with Chad Miles, who, as of April of 2016, is the host of the longest-running outdoor television show in America, Kentucky Afield. There you go, Chad, your first standing O from everyone in the hall. You know, like any sportsman or sportswoman, if you don't get the deer, if you don't get that big fish, that's okay as long as you have a plausible excuse ready.
This turkey was good size. We couldn't pass it for that reason. We just couldn't. We were hunting some thick areas, and I start to see why a lot of TV shows you see them hunt turkeys from blind. You do a little bit of calling, but the running gun style that we were trying to use in really thick underbrush, you might get a shooting lane, but it's really hard to be able to get a very small shooting lane and get a camera in that shooting lane too, and then get the turkey in there to stop, because when it did, the tree was kind of behind me, and it was an opportunity for us to finalize the deal. Although it was a nice, easy shot, it just wouldn't have been on TV, and that's kind of the object there is for us to get it on camera.
It's interesting to live your life in the limelight, like you kind of do now, Chad, because you have always been a businessman, and a good one. You've been a sportsman in your private life. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to go turkey hunting, you could at your leisure. If you didn't harvest a turkey, the world didn't end. Mm-hmm. And no TV show was breathing down your neck to go out again tomorrow morning. Mm-hmm. And if you get a turkey, you get a turkey now pretty much on the TV show's terms. Mm-hmm. If you get a deer, it's for the TV show. Mm-hmm. You don't get extra permits to shoot on your own time and then come to work and then shoot on the TV show time. You're still, in a sense, a private citizen doing this when it comes to what you're allowed to do by law.
That's an interesting point that you just brought up, Charlie, because I think that sometimes people forget that I'm bound to the same rules and regulations that everyone else is out there. Just because we're part of the Department of Fish and Wildlife in the TV show, we can't turkey hunt outside of the season. We can't squirrel hunt outside of the season. We didn't have any shows of us doing a hunt during the first 4 or 5 episodes. But I think people kind of thought, well, I can't believe they're not doing more hunting shows. We intend to do a bunch of hunting shows. I am a avid small game hunter and avid archer, and I'm very excited about the upcoming opportunities for hunting in the state of Kentucky.
Television has an interesting way of doing it versus you watch the nightly news, which is new every episode. If you watch The Big Bang Theory, you're watching 26 new shows a year, I think, and then they repeat them. Maybe it's 13, and they repeat those and make a half season, and they fill in with some a filler for the rest of the year. Kentucky Afield has repeat shows, more repeat segments, I guess you could say, to run an entire show because it is dated somewhat by content. You want to sound timely. Mm-hmm. So you have to build up sort of a stash of some of these, because I still like to go back and watch repeats of MASH. Mm-hmm. I still like Andy Griffith and Gomer Pyle and Alf and some of these older shows. They're just great. If you just run it once, come on, it's worth seeing again. I really enjoy going back and reliving some of that.
There are situations, too, where maybe a one-piece segment that we ran a couple of weeks ago or months ago may come up in the future because it's all of a sudden very relevant because of the other segments that are showing. I know that that's going to happen here pretty soon. We're getting ready to shoot a piece that it's going to kind of be a quick refresher of how this Hatchery Creek came to be. We actually video documented the construction part of the process of that, and now that Hatchery Creek is opening, I can't think of a better time to go back and show how this thing was built. So there will be reruns because they just tend to fit the other segments that are running in that episode.
Have you and the producers or the administration, Scott Moore, executive director, had any talks about anything new you're going to bring to the program?
We've talked a little bit about that. And some of the things, are we going to continue some of the traditions that have taken place for some time? I'll give you an example. The ones that didn't get away. I got to find a way to jazz it up, make it more interesting. If people who see their stuff on the ones that didn't get away, it's really great, but they're probably looking at it going, my gosh, I submitted that 4 years ago. It's just now getting up. True. We're that far behind. So how do we catch up, and how do we showcase it? Do we do some on the show, some on Facebook? How do we make it more relevant? Because I'm sitting there reading those and I'm looking at them going, Junior here just caught his first largemouth bass, and I'm looking at the date on it, and it's 2012, and I'm like, man, he might be fishing for the high school bass fishing club now. So that's something we kind of have to work on.
It's not what it is, it's what it's perceived to be.
That's exactly right.
How about this? The ones that got away. You just have people sitting there with this big scowl on their face saying, I caught a 210-pound blue cat, and it got away.
It got away.
Yeah, you could go with a list of those things. I got the biggest deer you had ever seen in your life. It got away. I had the shot, but it got away. The biggest fish that anybody has ever caught is the one that got away.
Oh, it absolutely is, yeah. Some of the biggest smallmouth I've ever caught, you see them jump, and they get bigger throughout the day. I mean, you sit out there in the boat, and you're like, man, that fish you had on, it jumped. That thing was 5 pounds. Before you know it, that thing may have been 7 pounds, and by the time you put the boat on the trailer at the end of the day, it was close to a state record.
It was a state record.
That's all fishermen. They call it little fisherman lies. So,
speaking of state records, I didn't have this on the list, but I think it's worthwhile bringing up for people to know a little bit more about their new host of the TV show. The world record smallmouth bass caught down at Dale Hollow. Mm-hmm. There's a license plate out there.
Yeah, there is.
And you brought that plate into being. It was you who did that with the foundation.
Yeah, it was a time-consuming process, and now I'm starting to see them out on the road a lot. Every time I see it, I still think it's the most beautiful plate on the road. That smallmouth bass that Rick Hill painted is just a beautiful fish, and we're very fortunate to have Mr. Hayes still lives in Litchfield, Kentucky. It caught that world record in 1955. I was fortunate enough to meet him, and I said, this is our one and only world record from the state of Kentucky, and this is an opportunity for us to showcase what the Kentucky Fish and Wildlife Foundation stands for, the clean water, the conservation education. This is a great way for us to do it. So it's a beautiful plate. Now, I appreciate you bringing that up. And every time I go into a county clerk's office, I look in there and make sure they've got one or two visible, and they tell me that they're really selling well. So every time I see one, I actually drove into work this morning behind a car that had one on there. So I'm seeing quite a few of them.
And the money from that, what is it, an extra couple of bucks, $10? What does that cost?
It's $10. Yeah, it's $10 to put that plate on there, and that money goes to the Fish and Wildlife Foundation, and the Fish and Wildlife Foundation will be using those funds for numerous projects. Most of it goes to our youth conservation camps, but if we come up with an opportunity to do something for fishery, habitat, or whatever where we can partner, we'll be using them for those type of projects.
You're a busy man at the house, too. I've seen your kids on Facebook. Tell me about them.
Man, I have a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old. I have 2 children, a 4-year-old son, Leo. He starts school next year. He's into sports, and he loves to fish. He's rambunctious, but he's a great kid. And then my daughter is 8. She's into 3 or 4 sports right now, and she loves to be at the lake and fishing and tubing, and she's trying to learn how to ride a wakeboard this summer. She was trying to learn that at the end of last year. I'm a very busy man with 2 kids, and they're very active, and my wife, she works a full-time job and stays busy, so it's busy.
Are you going to have the kids grow up on the show?
You know, I would love to get them on the show, and right now they're at different stages. My daughter would go out there and fish with me 4 hours if we stayed out. My son, at 4 years old, he's good for about 45 to 50 minutes. So we'll have to find things that kind of fit their attention span at this point. But I think that will change over the next couple of years.
4-year-olds are cute. Kids are cute. So they don't have to cure cancer. They just need to be on and smile and giggle a little bit, and they're off to a really good start.
Oh, yeah. And they have no fears. I will say that. I think they will be wide open on camera and won't let the camera affect them. They have no fears.
And Mrs. Miles?
We'll see. We'll see if she wants to get on there. I think she probably will get on there and do some fishing. She enjoys bluegill fishing, which, that time's now, so we'll try to get her out on the boat, and we're going to take a quick family vacation and try to locate some bluegill and maybe get the show down to do one of those here in the upcoming weeks.
Where'd you grow up, Chad?
Just south of Louisville in a town called Mount Washington, Kentucky.
Is that Jefferson County, Bullitt County?
It's Bullitt County. It's the east side of Bullitt County, yeah.
I've heard that name when we go to archery tournaments.
Yes.
I think, didn't you talk to
I talked to a couple of the kids that are at the Bullitt East High School. We didn't have archery when I was there, and didn't have a bass fishing team, and they have all that now. So I thought I would track down a couple of those guys and find out, guys and gals, and find out what they thought about having bass fishing and archery in their high school now. And, they really enjoy it. They're a unique group because they can remember not having it. 5-6 years from now, they'll be like, what do you mean not having bass fishing and archery in the school? We've had it forever. Well, not really. But this group that's in there right now knows what it's like to not have it. And so it's kind of interesting to talk to those guys and gals and get their perspective on how cool it is to have archery and bass fishing in the school.
It's going to be awkward at some point in your life when you go to a class reunion, perhaps, or at Christmas, you see old friends. Oh, you're the big star now. No, I'm just doing a job.
Yeah.
Have you tasted any part of that yet?
A little bit. I went in to pick my kids up. They stayed the night at their grandparents' house, my mom and dad's house, and stopped at a little store and to really quick grab lunch for the kids. And 2 or 3 people walk up, and especially in your hometown right now, or if you catch yourself in Cabela's or Bass Pro Shop where people that are hunters and fishermen, they're gonna hey, wait a minute, you're the guy.
You can't go to any of those stores without scheduling an extra half hour.
It's going to be another half hour to get in and out, that's for sure. But I signed up for that, and I love hearing people's stories. And
truth is, nobody needs a TV show to be popular. Not as long as you're a good old friendly, down-to-earth fella like Chad, the new host of Kentucky Afield TV weekends on KET. Back with our final few minutes with the new kid on the block. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. Listening to Kentucky Afield Radio, and we're back with our final few minutes. My name is Charlie Baglin. Wherever you are in life, you'll encounter situations where there are people who tend to stand out in a group. Think about school, the popular cheerleaders, the star of the football team, the student who had the starring role in the play. Did they milk it for all it's worth, or were they humble? Did they really care who got the credit? Who was the Arthur Fonzarelli in your town? Let me say this about popularity. Don't let it go to your head. I have been in the broadcasting business at several levels for 35-plus years. I got started in 1981, and I've seen it, and I have been a victim of it. If you want to be number one, and this is what most people in the limelight don't get, I'm the star. It's all about me. Look at me. Be like me. It's my voice that matters. It's my opinion you should heed. Do what I do. No. Please, check your ego at the door. If you truly want to be number one, never hesitate to put yourself second. Make everyone around you feel like they are number one. Being number one with your audience comes from being one with your audience. And I have a feeling, Chad Miles, that that's sort of your agenda with the Kentucky Afield television show.
I mean, the show's really, truly not about me. It's been around since 1953. The show is about how everyone out in the state of Kentucky that has a passion for the outdoors, how they enjoy it. And that's really what the show's about. So it's going to remain that way.
Is there a place geographically that you want to take the show?
You know, there are a lot of smaller-owned department lakes. You know, you said I was a big water guy, and I've spent time on Kentucky Lake and Cumberland and Dale Hollow and Barkley. But some of the more northern, smaller lakes, Kincaid, I've never fished that lake, and I hear how great of a bass fishery it is. I'm looking forward to getting on to some of these smaller department lakes that I know they're managed well. There's a lot of good fish there. I'm looking forward to spending some time on some of those watersheds.
Lake Mauzé, Lake Riva, Lake Wilgreen. There's a lot out there.
Yeah, and some of them, I went to
Elmer Davis.
So I spent some time at Lake Riva in Richmond, Kentucky. Has got some great fish in it. It amazes me at how some of the pictures that come out of some of the really big, nice fish that are in Lake Riva. I spent some time fishing there, and I have fished Wilgreen. I've been on Bashir once. I've been on Malone once. Those type of lakes, I look forward to getting out and showcase some of the opportunities at those bodies of water.
How about wildlife management areas or areas of the state to hunt?
We've done a lot of work at Peabody, and I know that the quail numbers are starting to come back. I used to do quite a bit of rabbit hunting on Peabody years ago. Looking forward to getting back into that. I mean, have all these things that you really like to do. I'm going to have more time to do some of these things now with the show, so I'm really looking forward to getting back down into western Kentucky and looking around at Peabody WMA. It's some of the wonderful rabbit habitat and the quail population. As far as going to eastern Kentucky, I've never grouse hunted. Never been on a grouse hunt. I know those birds are pretty hard to hit. You walk yourself to death, but I'm looking forward to that challenge.
The non-game aspect, I guess you could say non-game, the wildlife diversity, just the pure conservation, bald eagles, songbirds, frogs, lizards. Is there ever a story that you think you may do on those?
Very interesting that you say that. I don't know when it's going to air, but we're doing some stories about our mussel facility located here on Elkhorn Creek. That mussel facility is going to have the largest ever in the world restoration of an endangered species of mussels this summer. Those are the type of stories that I get really excited telling the message of the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and the reach is so far beyond, the hook and bullet crowd. Clean water is pretty important, and obviously mussels are a big player in that. So our veterinarian, Iga's got a program going on where they're looking for different lizards throughout the state. We're going to try to tag along with her for a day. Even though bears are a huntable species, working with the bear biologists and trying to communicate ways to reduce the amount of interaction between humans and bears in non-desirable ways. Those type of things are important department messages. And, if you're an outdoors person, you don't go outside just to take an animal or just to catch a fish. It's taking in all the other aspects that are around you. Every good day on the water was the only day where you caught your largest fish ever. You wouldn't have many good days on the water. It's about seeing the birds and seeing the wildlife and seeing the diversity in the water. That is really what makes people and sportsmen, men and women, love the outdoors.
I made a statement on the show, I guess a few shows ago, and I should do it more often, talking about buying your fishing license. That, sure, it keeps you legal, and it keeps you from getting a ticket if you were caught fishing without one. It lets you fish anywhere in the state you want to fish. But I gave my wife her very first fishing license, and she said, but I don't fish. But you've always been a supporter of quality law enforcement in the woods to keep from poaching, wildlife restoration. You've always liked raptors and bald eagles and songbird counts and all that. Now you're a supporter of that. You are now a stakeholder
You don't have to hunt and fish to be a proud holder of the Department of Fish and Wildlife fishing or hunting license. That's for sure. The reach is so far beyond it. And if you want to know more about that, you can go to the website and look at our non-game department. We have biologists that focus on nothing but non-game species, be it birds or raptors or bats or other fish species or mussels, snakes, all those type of things that the department is very concerned, because it's a big part of the outdoors here in the state of Kentucky. So you don't have to be an angler or a hunter to be a proud holder of a Department of Fish and Wildlife fishing or hunting license.
You hear that murmuring out in the hallway? I think the crew is back. That means they have successfully let the air out of your tires. So this whipping in here and serving a quick 20 years then gone has to stop.
I guess they'll give me the air back at year 23. Huh?
Yeah. So Chad Miles, welcome to Kentucky Afield, and best of luck here in the early going.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I hope my career can be as long and fruitful as yours has been, Charlie.
Oh, well, I'll tell you all the bad parts about it over a cheeseburger one of these days.
That's a deal. Thanks for having me.
Chad, you're welcome as the flowers in May. Chad Miles, our new host of the longest-running outdoor television show in America, Kentucky Afield. It's a great show, and its future is in good hands. Catch the show Saturday nights at 8:30 East, 7:30 West, and Sundays at 4:30, 7:30 Central on KET. We are out of time. This is Charlie Baglin. Join us in a week, and we'll go inside outdoors again here on Kentucky Afield Radio.